Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Coffin Talk, Interviews with the Living, a weekly podcast that explores how our views on death affect the way we live our life. And this week, coming to you from Oklahoma, is Malisa Hepner. She's the host of Emotionally Unavailable. Her life story is very interesting, but it starts with her dad dying of an overdose when she was 15, and then she lost her mom at 22. She worked at full-time in hospice, and she's now a licensed clinical social worker in Oklahoma, specializing in trauma and grief. So clearly she's an apt candidate for the show. I also should mention that she's an author and a public speaker, and there will be notes in the notes section for how to find her and inquire more. But if you want to, just head over to empoweredwithmelisahepner.org, and also you can search for her podcast, Emotionally Unavailable, on all apps and everywhere else that you find podcasts, wherever that would be. So welcome to the show, Malisa. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm good. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's exciting to talk to someone with as much experience as you have with death and dying, because our goal here is to promote people thinking about it before it just slaps them in the face and then ruins their life. Before we get into the actual details of your life, we just ask three pretty common questions to get people interested and oriented. How old are you? Where did you grow up? And what generation, if any, do you consider yourself a member of?
Oh my God, what great questions. Okay, I am going to be 45 on Monday, the 16th. I grew up in Moore, Oklahoma, the little tornado capital. I live right outside of there still. I've been here my whole life. And what was the third question?
What generation, if any, do you consider yourself a member of?
I'm a Zennial. So I used to ride hard for the Gen X,
Mhm.
and then my son, who's 22, just gave me so much hell about it for so long. Like, have you looked at the dates? Okay, so technically I am Gen X. I'm the last few months, but so now I call myself an elder millennial baby Gen X. So we're going with Zennial.
That's cool. I like that. And I'll be 44 on June 30th, so we're very close in age.
Oh
Yeah,
my
so
God, yeah.
so I feel the same kind of thing, and I've checked like the numbers and blah blah blah, but I know I got my first guitar because I loved Kurt Cobain, and that's clearly like a
Thank
Gen X.
you.
Yeah, so
Thank you. Yes,
yeah.
we all did. I got
Yeah.
a guitar for her. Yes. Yeah. Let me ask you this, and I'm sorry we won't go
No, it's
too
good.
much into this, but were you a Nirvana fan before he died?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I was
See,
like,
I
yeah,
wasn't. I
yeah.
didn't even know really until I stayed that summer with my friend. Like, not the whole summer, but you know how it is when you stay the night with a friend
Yeah, yeah.
for like, several days and whatever. He was allowed to watch MTV and I wasn't.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
there was a ton of tribute stuff, and I was like, kind of like this stuff. Kind of like it.
Yeah, I remember I was like 10 or going on 11, and I was always at a friend's house that whole summer, and we were always watching MTV, and like within a month, Pearl Jam, Nirvana, Red Hot Chili Peppers, like they all came out. And I mean, obviously they had albums before that and stuff, but
Sure,
that was like
sure.
the summer the alternative
Your
broke or whatever.
exposure,
Yeah,
yeah.
so
Same.
but yeah, no, and it's interesting too, because people love to talk about like America as one country, but it's obviously a lot of like micro regions and states, and like Oklahoma has such a fantastic reputation. I mean, just all over the place. I have a very close friend from there, so he's helped me
Really? That's
expand
cool.
my understanding of it. Yeah, but I mean, I think as far as like places to grow up, it is almost like the least and most American state, if that makes any sense. I don't know.
God, what a
Yeah.
great way to put that. Yep.
uh,
It is. I have to agree.
So it's interesting, like, because you've born and raised and lived there, and you've gone through so much, and now you're staying there and helping people, and I just like that. That puts me in a good place to know.
Oh, good.
Yeah, because I grew up all over, and I kind of like have moved a lot, and now I'm trying to give my kids what I didn't have, which is like, yeah. So
Yes. Yeah. That's the one thing. Like, I'm super, because I had such a chaotic childhood, there was a lot of movement because my mom kept trying her best to like get, reunified with us.
mhm.
Like I went to every elementary school in Moore, which was a lot,
Yeah.
So now I'm like that psycho who's like, the kids can't move schools. Everything's got to stay the same. We give them continuity and consistency. And so the thought of moving isn't even a reality for me because I don't know that I could ever. My two boys are grown, but I've got an 11-year-old left in the house. Well, they're all here to let me play. But I'm like, I can't move us because you have to stay the same.
Yeah, no, it's funny. My wife and I, we don't argue, but you know what I'm talking about. Like we
Yes, I do. Yeah.
definitely clash on this exact subject, and I want my kids to go to the same school with the same classmates and the same teachers, and
Yes.
then they can resent me and they can move their kids all around and do the
Yeah.
opposite. So
And they will. And they will.
yeah, you know what I can't wait for, because I noticed that you have tattoos as well. Is
Tons. Yeah.
Do your kids tell you that tattoos are lame? Like, has that come to roost, or is that like? Because I know Gen Z likes
No,
tattoos a lot, but
they do. They do.
yeah,
No, but like I have a 22-year-old and an 18-year-old, and neither of them seem very interested in getting one.
yeah.
But like their dad, because this the my I feel like a TikTok trend. My current husband, my second husband, I've been
Yeah.
married before, and
Yeah.
that's who their dad is somebody different, and
Hmm.
he doesn't have an ounce of tattoos, and so I don't know if it's just having the balance of like, and also a lot of like these that you can just see, they're kind of new. Like I went through
Hmm.
a thing where I was like, we no longer care what people think about us, and
Yeah.
got my nose pierced, and I've always had a lot of tattoos, but I like had them hidden
Yeah.
because I was hiding a lot of me. But
Yeah.
just in the last 2-3 years have I like covered my arms and stuff. So
Yeah.
so it's still kind of new. And they're like, I guess midlife crisis.
Well, it's funny because I'm about to try to help a friend who's in her 30s and having trouble, and I just keep wanting to tell people in their 30s, it just gets so much easier in your 40s because you
It
just don't care.
does.
You
You
just don't.
really don't. You really 42.
Yeah.
42
Yeah.
is when it hits. You get to 40 and nothing besides your body really feels
Yeah.
different. And then 42 hits and you're like, you know what? I've made all the right decisions for all the wrong reasons. Nope. Mm-mm.
That is so quotable. I love it. That is totally how I feel. And it's amazing because anytime I sync up and talk with someone in their mid 40s, it's the same thing. It's just like, oh, I don't care what
Yes.
other people think because
Yes.
that was my whole problem. Like,
That was my entire
yeah, like,
existence. Yeah, and that was the crux of all the issues. Weird how that works out.
yeah. So, oh my gosh, I'm so happy to meet you. And
You
let's
too.
go into the darkness. Let's just go
All
right
right, all
in.
right.
So I'm gonna ask you later about your podcast, Emotionally Unavailable, because not only is it a great title, but I want to like ask a fellow podcaster about what they're doing and how they do it. But
Yeah.
before we get into that, I don't care who you are, and I don't care what your relationship with your parents. Losing your bio parents is always like hard, even if you didn't meet them. I know people just it strikes them when they find out that kind of
Yes.
stuff. So you can get into your relationship with your father as much or as little as you want. I'm going to leave your mom out of it for now. If she comes up, that's fine. But
Okay.
what was it like to lose your father to an overdose when you were 15? I mean, just like walk us through that.
Truly, okay. So I mentioned that my mom had been trying for years to do a back and forth with us. I was primarily raised by my grandma because my parents just couldn't get together. But my dad took a different approach. He was actually trying to like shelter us a little bit, and he wouldn't really come around when he was messed up. Whereas my mom was like, those are my babies, and just got to see all the glory in that. So there was a lot of space between my dad and I for years. And I must have felt a lot of betrayal because I remember, and also the grandma I was being raised by was my mother's mother.
Hmm.
She hated my dad, so
Yeah.
that negativity was spoken daily to me. I knew stuff that he had done by the time I was 3 because she had a philosophy that if you're going to be mad at your mom, you're going to be mad at your dad too because this is actually all his fault.
Yeah.
Thank you, grandma. So I remember getting to about 13 and I was so angry and trying to talk about it, but I had no vocabulary for it. And so I tried, I said angry words. Like he was a huge Bill Clinton fan. And I was like, well, Bill Clinton's just a washed up Republican. And I didn't even know what I was talking about. Okay. I just heard that somewhere. And he was like, well, first of all, you're right. And second of all, and I was like, oh, that did not land. And I remember my stepmom smirking and going, you're really trying to make him mad, aren't you? Like, and I was like, whatever. That didn't even work, little Aquarius. And so I felt this tenderness from him always, though. Like I would just do the meanest stuff and he'd be like, sissy, why are you doing that? You know? And then we didn't have a ton of visitation for a few years, but those last couple, we were seeing him a little bit more regularly. I was raised with two brothers, one a year older, one a year younger. I'm the middle. And so they were starting to get in a lot of trouble, and he was kind of a refuge for them. I was more of a stick to my grandma because it felt loyal to do
Hmm.
that. And so that really prohibited a lot of my growth in relationships with my parents because my grandma was she was pretty narcissistic. I mean, truly. I've come to peace with that recently, but she really was. And so there was just a lot of like prohibition when it came to like me cultivating anything. So then that last year before he died, all of a sudden I had this little reckoning with him where I just laid it all down and said, I don't want to carry this anger anymore. For one thing, and this is weird, and I don't say this a lot because at the time it felt really weird to say it, but I actually had a dream of him dying almost every single night the entire year before his death. And I thought it was just emotional stuff that I was working out internally, but it did make me pause and it made me be a little softer. And so we really had some really beautiful times that last year. And it was my first real loss, too. So I think you kind of hit the nail on the head by posing the question the way you did, just because I felt like I had to fight for the right to grieve that because people around me, like my friends, they don't understand. Like, well, but you live with your grandma, you didn't even live with him. And truly kind of the same when my mom died. I just felt like um I I, I feel so differently about it now, but I must have felt like other people were minimalizing, but I don't think they were. I think I was just worried that they
Hmm.
were because grief is so unfamiliar if you haven't experienced it. And I mean, I'm 15. I'm surrounded by 15-year-olds who don't know what I'm going through.
Oh
So
wow, yeah.
I just felt like this. I had to, and also my grandma hated my dad, and she was pretty cruel about a lot of things after he died. And so
Oh wow.
I found myself being very protective over the grief
Hmm.
because I didn't want her to see it. I didn't want to share it with her because she wasn't safe. So it kind of just became my own bubble that I
Yeah.
dealt with.
Wow, that was, I mean, just a great answer, and you speak so fluidly about it. And like, what I love too is that you're so aware of the temporal changes in your attitude. Like, so I want to kind of like press you to help my audience and I understand. I feel so differently now. Like, how do you even begin to explain that statement? I get it because, like, I'm like speaking of being in my 40s, like when the worst thing that ever happened to me in my life happened, I was 36, and I feel so differently about it now, 8 years later. It's just like crazy, and when I trace like that process, even to myself, it's hard. So I'm kind of asking you the same question,
Yeah, yeah.
like what is that like? That process of changing your attitude about grief.
Yeah. I think for me, what I was realizing kind of in real time as I was saying that was that all of the responses from others that I manufactured was just that. It was a projection of my own insecurities and my own grappling with how much am I allowed to grieve this? Because if you think about our generation being raised by boomers, we really didn't get a lot of roadmap for how to deal with feelings, to be allowed to experience them,
Hmm.
because like we were really kind of taught rub some dirt on it, walk it off. And then that coupled with the fact that we're a very grief phobic society, you only get about 3 weeks. Now, if you lose a child, you'll get about 2 months, but that's it. Like literally, that's it. And then there's an expiration date on your grief, and you got to move on.
Yeah. It's, I mean, you summed it up so well, and it's crazy. Like, I actually wrote a friend who lost his dad to like remind him that I'm still thinking about him, just because I know from the other side, not
Yes.
losing my dad, but like from just how like
Yes.
the drop off is so severe. Like,
Oh, stark.
and
Yeah.
and maybe it should be. Like, I'm not even casting judgment on it because like I don't
Sure.
know. Like should we just sit around boo-hooing for like a year? Like, I don't know. I just know that it is so immediate, and also social media does not help. It makes it worse in my opinion. It's just like,
Absolutely. I agree. I
yeah.
agree.
Okay, so let's shift into the next phase then. So your relationship with both of your parents was always, first of all, kind of under control from your grandmother, it sounds.
It
So
was, but also very codependent.
okay. So with your mother, you're a lot older. You're 22, and I mean that's significant. Was she on the path to death like for a long time before that, or was it like, yeah, what?
No. Okay. So my mom was actually incarcerated when she died.
Oh
She
wow.
had been in prison for several years at that point, but at first she was in a minimum security. It was over some bogus checks she had written like in for real 1993.
Wow.
But she kept like, messing up, not going to court, whatever. The judge finally got tired of it and said, you know what? You haven't paid an ounce of restitution. I'm going to go ahead and lock you up and you can get all that taken care of there. So she did minimum security. And the day before our governor signed her parole, she was in minimum security. You can leave to do a work release. Now, I don't think this woman had a job, but she was leaving the facility to go, do whatever it was she was doing, and went to her ex's house, and they got really messed up. And that's considered an escape because she didn't show back up. And so she got two strikes, I think. I'm about to use prison lingo on her jacket.
Mhm.
And she got put in maximum security then. And I will tell you this, that was the best gift I could have been given, because I had a solid year and a half of visitation with her, like every Saturday, holidays. She was calm. I knew where she was. She was safe. She was eating. She wasn't drinking herself to death. She wasn't, because I did know about Hep C.
Mhm.
We knew that. Like actually she had gotten that diagnosis in the minimum security. But we also found out during this hospitalization that she, ultimately died. She was HIV positive as well. She was an IV drug needle
Mhm.
or IV drug user, and also a sex worker at whenever that she needed to. I don't know how often she did that, but
Yeah.
she did a lot. So I don't know how she got it, but she seemed fine. Like Hep C has an ability to be, recovered from. So we
Mhm.
kind of just thought, oh, she'll get out of prison, or they'll give her the treatment in there even, maybe. Like, we didn't know. She seemed fine. And then it was a very like cataclysmic event, like esophageal varices happen pretty commonly when you have Hep C. And so she basically like little varicose veins in her throat, and then they
Mhm.
just like popped, and there was a lot of blood. And some people, they can maintain that they may live another 1 to 3 years, but she died in the hospital. But there was a lot going on
Yeah.
once
Yeah.
we found out like that she was in there. Like there was a lot, but we had a really good time that year and a half before she died.
That's cool. I think we're similar in our pathology, like to not like look for the silver lining because you're supposed to, but just literally like see it and it's
Yeah.
just there. And like,
Yeah, and it really was. I felt it even then, honestly. I was like,
yeah.
what a gift. Like I did have a feeling. Like I was like, something doesn't feel right, because I had a lot. We had 3 losses that year, like a great grandma that I didn't really care about. But my dad's mom died too, and then my mom died like right after that.
Wow. And I guess that'll be a good pivotal point to switch to like the ultimate subject of the podcast, which is we ask
Yeah.
everyone, what do you think happens when you die? I'd like to know your answer to that. What do you think happens when you die? And also, I'd like to know if you feel any connection to those intuitive stories you told, because you had 2 different ones with each parent, like kind of just
Mhm.
this like premonition that at the time you didn't call a premonition.
Right.
Hey everyone, if you're a fan of the show, please head over to mikeyop.com and click the subscribe button. It's the best way to support us, and it's free. That's MIKEYOPP.com. Thanks.
What do I believe? Well, that's evolved a lot too. But I believe that, like, I believe, for instance, that my mom specifically is very much like still like doing the work that she was supposed to do on this side to like help me evolve as a human
Cool.
on the other side. But I think we're just all energy, and that we are energy forever,
Yeah.
So
And what about the consciousness of the energy? Because you said your mom, as if she's still. It's hard to explain this because I'm on your side, but I'm trying to ask it like
I get
with.
it.
Yeah. Is your mom the person still communicating from the other side, or is it like the energy of your mom, or is that not even a valid question to ask?
No, I love the question because that's a question I've been asking myself because I kind of swung a little bit in the
Hmm.
pendulum. Like at first, well, I used to be very religious, so there was a whole idea of heaven.
Hmm.
And then as I like shed all of that, I would say I went through a morning where I was like, well, does that mean then that like they don't care about me anymore? You know, like because if they were just souls meant to accomplish something on this earth, where do I fit in that? And then my evolution has taken me to, well, first of all, I just think they didn't kind of pass their test here. And so
Hmm.
part of their contract with me is to continue to make sure that
Ah,
I'm
that's cool.
okay.
I like that.
But maybe a mother energy, but not necessarily that mom, you
Yeah,
know, like
yeah.
I don't necessarily think it, but I like to sometimes like, hey mom, you know,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
like mostly probably just that nurturing energy.
Yeah, that's a fantastic answer. It's quite profound in my opinion, the way you explained it, and I share it because I have to be a certain amount of skeptical because it's just not Disney out there, and it's not Disney in here. And so with that, and then I like how you said, like, there's a selfish part of me that thinks it actually doesn't matter if I pass away. Like, my children only matter to me because they matter to me, and then I matter to them if I matter to them. Like, it's a weird thing when you become a parent, as you know. Like, you don't, like, you tuck them in and they seem to need you so much, but then they also, like, will shove you away and say, go away at the weirdest moments. And,
Tell me about it.
and it's like, it's insulting if you don't get used to it. I have three. I don't know. How many do you have?
Yes, I have
Yeah,
three
three. Yeah.
too.
So it's like,
Yeah.
and like they all do it at some point. So it's not even just like, oh, that's the one who needs space.
Oh
And,
no, they all do. Like I trying to explain. I remember when the 18-year-old was upset about the 22-year-old and I like arguing a bunch when he was probably 13 and the 18-year-old was probably he's 4 years younger than him.
uh-huh.
And I remember saying like we're going to do this too. This is normal. And then as like he grew up and he my oldest did move out for a little while for like 3 years and just watching like the natural because my middle one was so judgmental of all of
Uh-huh.
the attitude from the oldest, you know how they are.
Yeah.
And then now he is so smart and just doesn't need an ounce of information from me. And then I actually just came in with a new little dog last night because why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Oh, I love it too. And I love that society, the second you're 18, they're like, you're an adult, and you're like, oh God, what did you tell them that for? Like what?
No, I know,
Yeah.
because I'm like, I keep reminding myself, hey, that number don't mean nothing with
Yeah.
this baby. Okay,
Yeah.
you got to, he needs you. You don't
Yeah.
let him tell you otherwise.
And it's cool too because, like you, I have one from a previous marriage, and then I have two from, so we have the same breakup,
Yeah,
and that
yeah.
helps you even also see just how much like genetics, nature, nurture, like all these
So
conversations.
much.
When you have
Yes.
kids from different partners, it really helps to show you just like how unique they are and how,
Absolutely.
yeah, like I think you want to claim so much, you want to take so much credit as a parent, especially initially, like that's my
Yeah, I used
smile,
to
that's
for
your,
sure. That
yeah.
oldest one, woo!
Yeah, yeah, and then
Yeah.
yeah, so
You are a
so
direct extension and reflection of me. Well, the boomers taught us that, so
yeah,
you know.
actually, that's a good point. Yeah, so it's interesting, like the way you explained the energy of your mother and all that, and like yeah, the what really sticks the more I do these interviews, you're like number 231, I think, or some number
That's
that's
awesome.
high. Yeah, it's just fascinating how often this like we have lessons to learn thing comes up because it's not really in Christianity or Judaism or any of the major Abrahamics or most of them. It is in, I believe, Buddhism, but my point is just that it feels that way sometimes, especially when you
Yeah.
accomplish them. Like when you do finally get over like your addiction or your thing that is like your problem, there's this like
Yes.
great relief, and then the next thing comes. And you're like, all right.
Isn't that the truth? I'm
Yeah.
in a real period of relief right now, just for
Uh-huh.
like the last 3 days. So I'm like, please don't bust my bubble right now because I am so happy and at peace. I just, even my baby tried to bring that dog home and upset me, but I didn't let it. I said, oh, what's his name? Danny. Okay, great. Welcome to the family, Danny. You're not ruining my peace today.
Yeah. Yeah. It is so funny. Only in retrospect, never in real time. I'm just like, if I just said yes to everything, my life would actually end up being easier. Like if I actually just put myself second in every single question I'm ever asked and just said yes, it like actually would probably be easier, but I still can't do it. Not in real time. I just have like,
No, no.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-mm.
So that's great though. I love that you let the dog stay. That's just, oh man, I can't. We had like a pet worm for a while, and it's just like it's like,
We
yeah.
have three other dogs.
Oh God.
Did we need this baby? No, we
No,
didn't. We
you didn't need
didn't
the
need
other
him.
two,
But
probably.
I said, where did you get this dog? And he said, oh, this girl I was hanging out with, she went to show me her pet raccoon,
Oh
and
God.
all these dogs came running out. I said, oh, her dog had puppies and she couldn't keep them all. And he was
Yeah.
like, yeah, basically. I
Yeah.
was like, that's great.
Oh,
That's great.
let me know how their wedding is and the subsequent divorce. No, I'm kidding. Um, but I was an 18-year-old boy. I know that, like, if you're taking a dog from a girl, you're
Oh
definitely,
yeah. Oh
yeah.
well, hanging out. I know what kind of hanging
Yeah,
out he
yeah.
meant. So I was like, okay, great. We got a new girl, huh? Okay.
Oh man, it's really fun to talk to you. I like that we're just kind of talking parenting, because to me it really is a part of this philosophy of death and dying and all that, because always this nagging thing, for especially if you lost your parents. I did not. My parents are still here, just to make sure I'm not confusing you. But like that, what if I die, what if I'm not here, like that
Yeah.
sense of like, but that feels appropriate, it doesn't feel inappropriate. But
Yeah.
do your children ever ask you about your parents, and have you ever had to like explain? And especially I'm curious about how you talk about addiction to older kids, because I've seen it backfire with some of my friends. Like, their parents are like, you're an alcoholic, don't ever drink. And the next thing you know, they're like the alcoholic in our high school. Like, so I'm just
God,
curious,
isn't that
like,
true?
yeah, how do
Well,
you,
that's been a real evolution for me because well, like so one of the things about my dad that I hated was that he smoked weed like a lot,
Mhm.
but that's because I didn't know he was also doing heroin. So I thought that, the
Oh
weed
yeah.
was the crux of the problems because that's what my grandma was hyper fixated on.
Hmm.
Because she was constantly, it's funny, my dad's family was constantly preaching to me the dangers of alcohol and weed's fine, and my mom's side was doing the opposite. Now my grandma was like, no substances ever. Even though she was a Lucky Strike smoker,
Yeah,
okay, my whole life, and an instant coffee addict. So
yeah.
whatevs. But I really was like, oh my God, Dad, I'd see big freezer bags in the, freezer of weed and be like, oh, so I was terrified, and I knew my middle one was going to be the one to worry about,
Uh-huh.
the one who brought the dog home.
Yeah.
And but no, I have actually talked to them about addiction as long as they could talk because it was my biggest fear.
Hmm.
Um when they were little, it was more like, this is why my mom and dad are dead, and I've been honest about it forever. But as they've gotten older, and my understanding of what addiction really is,
Hmm.
that informs how I talk about it. So I'm like, what? Because my middle one has struggled. And so I'm like, you have to get to the root of what's making you want to numb so bad.
Hmm.
And that's really the way, because I'm a person, I've always said I have an addictive personality, which I do, but it's because I was dopamine seeking just like he is,
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's been a real interesting evolution for me. I went from the straight laced, no substances to alcohol, drank way too much alcohol. Then during the divorce crazies, I tried a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
And then, swang back to normal because I wasn't crazy anymore. And now like I use edibles at night. And it's just like I kind of started using them as I was going through my healing because I was a person who lived in survival mode every minute of every day because
Hmm.
I was high strung and, dealing with trauma brain that I didn't really understand. So it really helps me to kind of chill. But with the kids, I'm just open about it. Like well, I really am not with my 11-year-old.
Yeah, yeah.
But I am open about her grandparents. They've known about this their whole life. So it's like not a secret. They
Hmm.
don't really ask about them anymore. I have started sharing more stuff as more memories come up, good ones,
Hmm.
and like my daughter, the youngest, she likes to go to the cemetery with me. I just started going
Oh,
again in the
that's cool.
last year. So like, I've taken her to like visit all the people that we've lost over the last few years, and she really likes that.
That's really sweet. I like that a lot. And I'm asking a lot from like my kids are, the two that I'm raising right now are like really young. So first of all, there's billboards advertising pot, which is like something, our generation had like, I saw the legalization maybe coming. Like, I grew up in California, so
I
it was,
didn't. Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
So, I
I'm in
mean,
Oklahoma, so
yeah,
I did
no,
not see it coming.
your
At
dry
all.
state
Like,
is like
I was shocked. I was
yeah.
glad I voted for it by the time it, was an
Yeah.
option here. But it is still different, and it's hard to teach them. There's a time, place, and manner for everything. And
Hmm.
that was really what I started to focus on. I tried the staunch stuff when they were little and just realized really quickly that's the fastest way to get someone to run towards what you're trying to
Yeah,
keep them away
exactly.
from.
Yeah.
And I have really learned through parenting to just step back
Hmm.
because I've tried to control every last thing about them. It doesn't work. So
Yeah.
I just laid it down and said, hey, I'm just here to guide you. And that's really what I try to do.
Cool. I think my second to last question, the last question will be the end of the interview, but as far as this subject goes, because you mentioned prison and because we're talking about drug and addiction, this is actually the subject I care the most about because ever since I was a child, it never made sense to me to punish people for having a problem seeking dopamine or escaping or going numb. Yet, and I'm being very clear here, some of these drugs do lead to behavior that is violent and it
Absolutely.
can really screw with society. So I'm for the decriminalization of all drugs, all of them, because I
Me
think
too.
calling someone a criminal is a problem. So how do you see, like in your perfect world, and I'm really asking you to draw on the experience of your parents and visiting your mom in a prison and seeing her go to the two types and all that, where would you like to see America specifically go with like legalization versus decriminalization and how we punish people who have problems that affect other people with drugs?
I
Yeah.
I think that it's so nuanced. I would love decriminalization of all drugs as well. Like literally, I'm a live and let live kind of gal. So I really do not, if you want to do meth all day, every day, do that. Now, once it infringes upon somebody else's rights as a human, then we do have to look at what we're going to do when you are, doing illegal stuff that's hurting others.
Hmm.
Um, it's been so tricky with the legalization here because but it's not even the legal weed that the kids are getting here.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
they're getting the illegal stuff sent in from like California and stuff like that.
Totally.
So it's not our legal weed that they're even abusing right now. Um but I also don't think weed's the worst thing a kid can get into,
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's like, and my feelings about whether or not it's a gateway have really changed throughout the years too. I don't think it has to be. Like I use
Hmm.
weed every single day
Hmm.
and have zero interest in any other drugs. Like
Hmm.
and granted, I'm 45, but
Yeah.
still, it wasn't a gateway the first time I tried it either. Like I had a
Yeah.
really solid understanding of what I was willing and not willing to do because I was afraid. Like
Hmm.
I've never tried certain things because I was like, I'm gonna be an addict if I do that.
Yeah. Totally.
Like
Yeah.
I've always stayed away from opiates and stuff.
Hmm.
I would love if nobody went to jail about drugs. I mean, I
Hmm.
really would because it would. Although, yeah, no, I don't even think that. I used to think like, well, at least they're safe. They're not safe. Jail is a bad place. Like, those are the things you tell yourself whenever your loved one gets locked up. Because I have
Totally.
an older brother who's still in and out of the system, but
Yeah.
I don't know about legalization. I yeah, I guess if I'm asked on the spot, I would say make it all legal. Who cares? Like that it's again, it's not the legal that the kids are getting. It's
Yeah.
really not. It's the same people pushing the same product that they were pushing before.
Yeah, and I think just to add to that, like what I feel is like, okay, so if you're abusing drugs and then you're negligent, just try the person for negligence. And if you're abusing drugs and you are domestically violent, try them for domestic violence. Like it doesn't.
Right, like if you
Yeah.
kill someone in a DUI, like yeah, you should be punished, but that like you made a choice there to
Hmm.
do something. It doesn't like it is separate
Yeah.
from the fact that you are possibly an addict. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think people have to be accountable, but there are so many people out there being held accountable when nothing's occurred. They're
Yeah.
hurting their own selves and that's it. So why they're getting the natural consequences of their decision. What more do they need from you? You
Yeah.
know?
Totally. And I think I don't have time to get into this, but like, spiritually and with lessons and learning and all that, I think this also applies to that conversation that like maybe
Absolutely.
that is a soul's journey is to come inhabit a body and deal with dopamine, you know? Yeah.
Yes. Well,
So,
my older brother who's schizophrenic and homeless, like I just had a conversation about this, but that's kind of where I've gotten with him. For so long I was angry because I was like, what's his purpose? Like this is miserable, blah blah blah. And then as I've evolved and my feelings about all of it change, I thought he has a mighty purpose on this earth and I'm probably never going to understand it, but I'm going to do whatever I have the capacity to do to interact with him in a meaningful way.
That's awesome. Melissa, you're a great human. I just want to let you know from one
Oh,
human to
thank
another. Yeah, no,
you.
your heart is huge and I can see it in real time and I'm learning it and it's just cool. It's like I would have stopped doing this hundreds of episodes ago if it wasn't for these moments where I just okay, there's good people in
There's
Oklahoma,
good
there's good
people.
people in Washington, there's good people in the
I promise
Netherlands.
you, there's
Like
a lot of good people here.
oh no, I wasn't meaning
They're
yeah,
not
yeah.
as loud, but
No.
they are here.
No, I visited all 50 states and I actually did it intentionally when I was in my
Look at
20s. Yeah, I just
you.
drove everywhere and I like just to like prove to myself that like it doesn't matter where you go. There's mostly good
That's
people.
so true.
Yeah, and then there's also good people doing bad things, which is an even harder thing for I think people to recognize. Like it's not just oh they're evil. No. It's like something happened that that gave them permission.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, our shame will drive us to some really dark places, and I can have the most compassion for almost anyone now because I'm a really good person who's done some really bad things.
That's a great way to put it. My gosh, wow, that's a mic drop to end the interview, but I'm not going to let you go that easy. I always ask our guests just to give like a message of inspiration to our audience.
I would say there is the other side to everything. Like you will reach the other side of any experience and you're in grief especially. Like it is a journey that you take because it feels so different from minute to minute and my parents have been gone so long now. I do still have those moments where I will cry a little or whatever, but they're kind of few and far between and nothing takes my breath away anymore. You know, none of the grief makes me feel like it's so hard I might die. So I think there's always tomorrow, which is something so cliche to say, but I'm just getting a deeper and deeper understanding of that. Like last week I was in the worst mood ever. The last few days I've been in the best mood ever. You know, like it's just there's always tomorrow. And I think the big message that I've been trying to like just put on poster boards everywhere, and it's not mine, it's something I'm learning every day, is like you are so good exactly how you are. The life wasn't meant to pick a destination and pick yourself apart to try to be that. You exactly who you are in this moment. You have everything you need inside of you, not external of you, and you were born with every ounce of worth and value that you were ever going to get because it's that much just because you exist. And life is too short to not be spending your time on this earth with passion and purpose.
Oh, thank you so much, Melissa. You're awesome. Everyone, please seek out Melissa Hepner's podcast and also just seek her out if you want help because she is a therapist and she can help people, and especially if you're in Oklahoma, I guess. But there will be a link to find her in the notes. And as always, if you want to support our show, just please head over to MikeyOpp.com. That's MikeyOpp.com and sign up for the free once a week email that I write, which has stories and truth stories and fiction stories and songs and weird stuff that I do. And to everyone listening, thank you again for checking in to Coffin Talk. My name is Mike Oppenheim, and we will see you soon.